Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all this evening, and before we begin, let's start with a prayer. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, dearest friend, beloved God, great masters of self-realization, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswar, Paramahansa Yogananda, humbly we invoke thy presence. Great masters, be with us this evening. Guide our attunement, guide our understanding, that we may realize the purpose of this life, the direction we must go to find God. We are thine, be thou ours. Om, peace, amen. We'll begin with a couple of chants, and then I'll get a little bit more into explaining what this evening will be about. Nothing on earth can hold me. Rise, O my soul, in freedom. Nothing on earth can hold me. Rise, O my soul, in freedom. Rise, O my soul, in freedom. Nothing to fear anymore. Rise, O my soul, in freedom. Nothing to fear anymore. Nothing on earth can hold me. Rise, O my soul, in freedom. Nothing on earth can hold me. Rise, O my soul, in freedom. Rise, O my soul, in freedom. Nothing to fear anymore. Rise, O my soul, in freedom. Nothing to fear anymore. Nothing on earth can hold me. Rise, O my soul, in freedom. Nothing on earth can hold me. Rise, O my soul, in freedom. Rise, O my soul, in freedom. Nothing to fear anymore. Rise, O my soul, in freedom. Nothing to fear anymore. Nothing on earth can hold me. Rise, O my soul, in freedom. Nothing on earth can hold me. Rise, O my soul, in freedom. Nothing on earth can hold me. Rise, O my soul, in freedom. Nothing on earth can hold me. Rise, O my soul, in freedom. 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 Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart's song. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. I will never forget thee. I will never forsake thee. Listen, listen, listen to my heart song. 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 Well, good evening, everyone. And this evening, what I'm going to talk about is the astral plane. And there are souls that have lived with Ananda who have passed from this plane of existence and moved on. Many very dear souls to probably you as well as myself, Nanda devotees, and many of their lives have been very, very inspiring. And the way they've met the challenges before their passing. And I'm going to briefly touch on the astral plane and talk about it also a little bit later. Swami had some comments to say about it. But for those of you, many of you have probably, of course, read the Autobiography of a Yogi and the Resurrection of Sri Yukteswar. And studying this, I have to say, it's probably one of the most thrilling topics that I've come upon. And I've come to realize that when we leave this world, many of us don't really give it a lot of thought, I don't think, in terms of where we go, in terms of what happens, in terms of what our attitudes should be like. I think many of us are very preoccupied with day-to-day living and just trying to get through our lives, let alone think about what's going to happen to us once we leave this world. And so I found that much of what I've been studying these past few days to prepare for this evening are so relevant to how we live our lives. And it doesn't matter whatever age you might be, I think still this is probably one of the most important things that you could tune into, is what will happen to me when I leave this world. And so I started studying the astral plane, and I can give you some information about it as much as my understanding allows. And I want to start first by Yukteswar, came back to Master in physical form. And it was actually very sweet and kind of comical, Master's description of it. But this is how it went. But is it you, Master, the same Lion of God? Are you wearing a body like the one that I buried beneath the cruel Puri sands? Yes, my child, I am the same. This is a flesh and blood body, and though I see it as ethereal, to your sight it is physical. From the cosmic atoms I created an entirely new body, exactly like that cosmic dream physical body which you laid beneath the dream sands at Puri in your dream world. I am in truth resurrected, not on earth, but on an astral plane. And its inhabitants are better able than earthly humanity to meet my lofty standards. There you and your exalted loved ones shall someday come to be with me. O deathless Guru, tell me more. Master gave a quick, mirthful chuckle. Please, dear one, he said, won't you relax your hold a little? Because Master had held so tightly to him. Only a little. I had been embracing him with an octopus grip. I could detect the same faint, fragrant, natural odor which had been characteristic of his body before. The thrilling touch of his divine flesh still persists around the inner sides of my arms and in my palms whenever I recall those glorious hours. So Sri Yukteswar said that he was directed by God to serve on this astral planet as a savior. And this is not your typical astral planet. It's a very exalted astral planet. And it's called Hiranyaloka. And there he said he helped advanced beings to rid themselves of their astral karma and to attain their final, or to attain their liberation from their astral rebirths. So that gives us a little clue as to the direction that we're going in. Many of you thought you were going to be done with karma this life, or on this plane of existence. Not so. He said highly advanced beings who have spiritually attained a consciousness or a conscious exit from their bodies are those that he works with. So he works with people who have freed themselves from Sabbakalpa Samadhi and gone on to Nirvikalpa, or gone into Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And they are ready to advance on into the next plane of existence. They've gone through what Sri Yukteswar referred to as ordinary astral spheres, which is where nearly everyone must go at death. And in the astral worlds, they have worked out many seeds of past karma. Now God has encased the soul in 3 bodies. The causal body, which is that of the ideational plane. The astral body, which is that of emotions and the mental plane. And then, of course, there's the physical body, the gross physical body. And what Yukteswar is doing is helping them to move on to the causal plane, which is the blissful realm of ideas. Well, there are many astral planets and many astral beings. And for inhabitants to travel, they use as planes masses of light, or they call them astral planes, to travel from one planet to another. And they move faster than electricity. The astral plane is 100 times larger than the physical universe. And the physical universe hangs like a basket, like a tightly woven basket, underneath this luminous balloon of the astral world. No one is born from a woman. The offsprings are materialized by the help of their cosmic will. And offsprings are recently physically disembodied souls who arrive onto the astral plane, and they're invited then to be a part of a family on the astral plane. And this, of course, has to do with their inclinations. Their similar spiritual and mental tendencies. There are many astral planes teeming with astral beings, Master began. The inhabitants use astral planes or masses of light to travel from one planet to another, faster than electricity and radioactive energies. The astral universe is made up of various subtle vibrations of light and color, and is 100 times larger than the material cosmos. Their planets have astral suns and moons that are more beautiful than the physical ones, and the astral luminaries resemble the aurora borealis, the sunny astral aura being more dazzling than the mild rayed moon aurora. The astral day and night are longer than that on the physical plane, and the astral world is infinitely beautiful. It's clean and pure and orderly, and there are no dead planets or barren lands. The terrestrial blemishes, the weeds, bacteria, insects, snakes, they're absent. And unlike the variable climates and seasons of the earth, the astral planes maintain the even temperature of an eternal spring, with occasional luminous white snow and rain of many colored lights. Astral planets abound in opal lakes and bright seas and rainbow rivers. The ordinary astral universe, not the subtler astral heaven of Hiranyaloka, is peopled with millions of astral beings who have come more or less recently from the earth, and also with myriads of fairies, mermaids, fishes, animals, goblins, gnomes, demigods, and spirits. They all reside on different astral planets in accordance with their karmic qualifications. Various spheric mansions or vibratory regions are provided for good and evil spirits. Good ones can travel freely, but the evil spirits are confined to limited zones. And in the same way that human beings live on the surface of the earth, worms inside the soil, fish in water, and birds in the air, so astral beings of different grades are assigned to subtle vibratory quarters. Among the fallen dark angels expelled from other worlds, friction and war take place with lifeltronic bombs or mental, mantric vibratory rays. These beings dwell in the gloom-drenched regions of the lower astral cosmos, working out their evil karma. And then above these dark astral prisons, it's shining and beautiful. The earth, it's dark with warfare and murder in the sea, land, and air. But the astral realms know a happy harmony and an equality. Astral beings dematerialize or materialize their forms at will. Flowers or fish or animals can metamorphose themselves for a time into astral men. All astral beings are free to assume any form and can easily commune together. No fixed, definite natural law hems them round. Any astral tree, for example, can successfully be asked to produce an astral mango or other desired fruit, a flower, or indeed any other object. Certain karmic restrictions are present, but there are no distinctions in the astral world about desirability of various forms. Everything is vibrant with God's creative light. The astral body is not subject to cold or heat or other natural conditions. The anatomy includes an astral brain, and this is where he talks about chakras, which we're all familiar with, knowing that when the soul enters the body, there's a subtle realm of, there's a subtle system, a subtle nervous system that is first produced. And then from that is the physical body. And he's talking about the chakras. The anatomy includes an astral brain, or the 1,000-petaled lotus of light, and 6 awakened centers in the sushumna, or the astral cerebral spinal axis. And then he talks about the heart, and he talks about how it draws cosmic energy as well as light from the astral brain. And it pumps into the astral nerves and the body cells, or the lifetrons. Astral beings can vibrate or can affect their body by lifetronic force, or by mantric vibrations, which is rather interesting because they're finding more and more now, and they think that this is going to be a big part of healing in the future, and that is how the body responds to sound. Astral beings retain the same appearance which they possessed in youth in their previous earthly sojourn. Occasionally, an astral being chooses, like myself, this is Yukteswar talking, to retain his old age appearance. And Master, emanating the very essence of youth, chuckled merrily. Unlike the spatial 3-dimensional physical world cognized only by the 5 senses, the astral spheres are visible to the all-inclusive 6th sense, which is intuition. And Sri Yukteswar went on, and he said, by sheer intuitional feeling, all astral beings, they see, they hear, they smell, they taste, they touch, and they have 3 eyes. 2 of them are half open, and the third one, which is in the middle of the forehead, and it is horizontal, is fully open. And Master asked, are astral beings beautiful? And Sri Yukteswar's response was, yes, but they're beautiful according to their spiritual attainment. And then he also goes on to say, friends of other lives easily recognize one another in the astral world. They rejoice at the immortality of friendship, and they realize the indestructibility of love. And they often doubted at the time of the sad, delusive partings of earthly beings, of earthly life. He said, the intuition of astral beings pierces through the veil and observes human activities on earth, but man cannot view the astral world unless his 6th sense is open and somewhat developed. Thousands of earth dwellers have momentarily glimpsed an astral being or an astral world. The earth-liberated astral being meets a multitude of relationships or relatives fathers, mothers, wives, husbands, and friends that they've acquired through different incarnations on earth. So what happens is they meet all of these people and they recognize all of them and the forms that they took on earth, and they don't know really who they love more than the other. And he says it's therefore a loss to understand whom to love especially. He learns in this way to give divine and equal love to all as children and individualized expressions of God. And even though the outward appearance may have changed through some kind of karmic evolution, he said that they still are able to recognize each other through intuition. And they welcome they're welcomed into their new astral home. And it said because every atom in creation is inextinguishably dowered with individuality, an astral friend will be recognized no matter what costume he may don, even as on earth an actor's identity is discoverable by close observation despite any disguise. So that barely touches on the astral plane. And if you want to read more, and go to the chapter, the resurrection of Sri Yukteswar, and really try to study it, because it's pretty extraordinary. And you have to study it and you have to meditate on it to really understand completely what Sri Yukteswar is talking about. And so now we'll have a few songs by Swami Kriyananda and then a little bit of meditation before we go on to the next part.
Many lives I've drunk the cup of laughter. No man could tell the pleasures I have known. The stars in the endless sky, if one could count, would come to billions. Yet as vast as are their numbers, so many years I've wandered far from you. Yet as vast as are their numbers, so many years I've wandered far from you. Through many lives I've drunk the cup of sorrow. No man could tell the bitter tears I've shed. The drops in the endless sea, if one could count, would come to billions. Yet as vast as are their numbers, so many years I've wandered far from you. Yet as vast as are their numbers, so many years I've wandered far from you. Through countless lives I've sought your cup of sweetness, found other cups, yet thirsted evermore. The streams in the hills of time all found their way into a desert. Every noon of bright fulfillment, ere many hours did sink to evening gloom. Every noon of bright fulfillment, ere many hours did sink to evening gloom. I long for you in summer and in winter, only for you my heart thirsts day and night. I've learned that the sweetest songs ears ever heard were but your echo. Lord, at last fill me completely, for nevermore I'd wander far from you. Lord, at last fill me completely, for nevermore I'd wander far from you. I've passed my life as a stranger, Lord, roamed far in foreign lands, far, Lord, far, too far. Only he who knows he's far from home, only he, Lord, understands. Only he who knows he's far from home feels the earth and understands. Sometimes a stranger did take me in, then love I thought was near. Love, Lord, where is love? As the winds upon the desert sand whisper hope, then disappear. As soft winds breathe on the desert sand, so love sighs, then disappears. Sometimes a child laughed and I did pause, and dreamed of joys at home. Joys, Lord, only a dream. For what joy is there without your smile, empty like the ocean foam? For what joy is there without your smile? You're the sea, all else is foam. How long must I be a wanderer, Lord? You know where I belong. You know, Lord, yes, you know. Oh, is where my Lord's sweet presence is. I've grown tired of strangers' songs. Home is where my Lord's sweet presence is. Bless me that I hear your songs.
As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to talk just a little bit about a couple of people and their transitions in life. This is a wonderful book. It's called Transitioning in Grace, and it's called A Yogi's Approach to Death and Dying. It's a book written by a lady named Nalini Graber. She lives at Ananda Village. Some of you probably know her. And Nalini has been dealing for as long as I can remember, and many, many years, with Parkinson's disease. She's a hero, a complete hero. She has just done remarkable things with her life. She continues to do so, and one is that she wrote this book, and she interviewed a lot of people around the transitions of others. And this one that I'm going to talk about now is, and read excerpts from her life. You'll hear a lot of narration is from Asha. She was a devotee that was in the Palo Alto Center, and her name was Linda. And I'll just start by, you'll understand as I read more about her life why I've chosen her. But soon after Linda was diagnosed, she made the decision to visit Swami Kriyananda in Italy. Against the advice of her doctor, she insisted, "I want to see Swami now. I'm not going to wait. I don't know if I'll ever be able to go again or if I'll live until he comes back." In fact, she did live to see Kriyananda one or two more times. But at that point, she believed it might be the last time she would see him. Linda's husband, Jim, invited David and me, Asha, to go with them, and the four of us went to Italy for a week. Shortly after our arrival, Kriyananda came to greet us, and he brought Linda a beautiful bouquet of roses, a gift which touched her deeply. Linda and Jim had been long been generous supporters of Ananda. Swami wanted to show his appreciation and to honor Linda's deep commitment and sincerity. It was very moving. During the time we were there, we went to Swami's house several times, but we hardly talked about the cancer at all. Swami works on more subtle levels. He did say something simple to Jim, like, "Better that you have a little time to say goodbye than that you should just drive away one morning and die. Perhaps that she should just drive away one morning and die, perhaps in an accident. And then you wouldn't have any time to prepare. And that was all Swami said. The rest of the time we were just together. It's interesting that Linda would often tell me, even before she became ill, I've always been able to look ahead to the future. I can see what it's going to be, and I visualize it. One of the reasons she was able to manifest beauty. Now, if you know Palo Alto at all, they have exquisite events there, and just beautifully decorated. And my guess is, even though I didn't know Linda, but it sounds as if she was very instrumental in starting a lot of that. So one of the reasons that she was able to manifest beauty was that she used the power of her mind to bring it about. Yet strangely, she couldn't imagine that her life was going to be like after her daughter. Lindsay graduated from high school and left home. And only later, after she got sick, did we think that that experience was a premonition of death. It's so profound, the way that God puts hints in our lives, so that when we look back, we realize that it was all there in front of us, just waiting to be unfolded. In any event, we'd had a lot of fun on the trip to Italy, and although when we went to a restaurant, she would often have to leave and go lie down in the car for a while, because just sitting up would hurt her back too much. She was also having intense emotional experiences. She started confessing every little thing that she had ever done. If she told an untruth here or smoked a marijuana cigarette there, it was as if she felt the need to get everything off her chest. It felt like a life review with me as her mother confessor. She was going through all aspects of her life, but in an exaggerated way because she was on steroids that were making her somewhat manic. She would tearfully confess to me these tiny little transgressions, and I would have to absolve her of her responsibility. Ironically, as it turned out, she ended up living for 3 more years. Jim was constantly supportive from the first minute to the last. He was just extraordinary, patient, kind, willing to do whatever was needed. And after she passed, he said that he knew exactly how many days it had been, 1,100 and some days from diagnosis until she died, because every single day had essentially been defined by taking care of Linda. Perhaps in the stillness of the night it had counted it up. Linda had been to Assisi earlier with David and me, but without Jim on another pilgrimage. She had a very specific, profound love for the monastery where St. Clare had lived, San Damiano. There was a particular spot that she really wanted to visit again. And one morning, early, the 4 of us went on a journey, because I didn't understand what it was that she wanted. We didn't arrive at that place until the very end of the morning. Linda was determined to stand in the spot where St. Clare had stood. But she was tired, and she was ill, and she literally had to crawl up the stairs to do it. Anyone else would have been too embarrassed in such a public place. But Linda, a former dancer, had always been a graceful woman. But here she just used her hands. And I remember Jim and David and I standing behind her trying to help her. No, she was going to get there on her own. She crawled up those stairs and prayed in this special spot. And finally she said, "I'm done. We can go now." That's the kind of woman that she was. And that's where her power came from. I will do what my heart tells me to do, come what may. What made Linda's life so beautiful was not so much the home and the physical beauty that she created. It was her inner consciousness, which was entirely independent of the ups and downs. And that's what she proved during those last few months, when everything began to fall away from her. Toward the end of her life, as she became aware that it was almost over, she told me, Asha, "Most people don't realize that I've been in excruciating pain for 3 years." I said, "No, Linda, most people don't realize it. How could they, with the beautiful face that you are putting in front of us?" In addition to Asha, other friends shared their perspectives on Linda's journey. Kate, who lived across the street, recalled a visit to Linda during that time. She greeted me at the door in a wheelchair. "I'm in a lot of pain," she told me matter-of-factly, but after her warm welcome I wouldn't have been able to tell. She emanated so much joy and love that she transcended the pain. After the trip to Italy, Linda started down a long road of treatment. In the middle of all the chemotherapy, she got quite sick and could hardly lift her head. And for weeks or months, she lived upstairs in her room. She was unable to go anywhere or do anything. Despite the worst of the chemo period, a group of Bay Area yogis started going to her house almost every week. And for some months, Asha told me, we made the half-hour trip from where we lived to do a prayer session. Jim and the kids would attend. Linda was always thrilled when we came. She would lie in her bed or couch just looking at the inner light. Krishna, a woman who was part of the prayer group, said sometimes she said little and just wanted us to pray or sing. And other times she preferred to talk. I think she needed to process all the changes taking place in her life. But one of the highlights was the visit of several members of the Ananda Palo Alto choir who came to sing Life Mantra in her living room. It was a joyful experience for all. We had felt an uplifting astral energy in the house. Even before we sang the song, we could sense the presence of angels. And Linda herself said, "There are angels in the room." Her spiritual practice, even before she became ill, was less the techniques of meditation and more such attitudes as devotion and gratitude, joy and enthusiasm. Creating beauty was her primary service. She would make altars and decorate for the Christmas party. She would buy lovely things for the church. As Krishna put it, wherever Linda was in charge for decorating, it looked as if an artist from the astral plane had been working there. And Krishna, who worked at the church office during that period, recounts a time when Linda came to do the flowers. She was flying around as usual, doing things quickly but well, and then she started to cry. And I asked Linda, "Why are you crying?" And she answered, "Oh, you get to be here all the time, but I have to come and go. And I long to give my life totally to God, but I have so much to do for my family that I can't be here often." And although they were supportive, Asha told me no one else in her family was committed to the spiritual practices of Ananda as much as she was. The family's constant pulling on her created a huge conflict in her mind. However, during the time she was ill, she gained a much greater peace with it all. She was able to give herself to her family with less of a sense of conflict than she had when she was well. I think the great victory at the end of her life was that the closer she came to leaving the world, the more she understood that it was all one. All of that apparent separation just disappeared. Amazingly, Linda held her own for nearly 3 years after the second diagnosis. She far outlived anyone's predictions, and they had expected her to pass. But she had a lot of willpower. She took every treatment there was, conventional and unconventional. And even so, Asha continued, the day came when the doctors, no matter how talented and how loving, had simply to say, "There's nothing more we can do." So on that day, there we were, and I was sitting with Linda, and she was weeping, and she gestured to the whole house. "How can I leave this?" she asked. "How will I ever leave my children? What will become of Jim? How can I walk away from all this?" she cried inconsolably. And then she looked at me and wanted an answer. And desperately I prayed to God. And then I said, "Linda, by the time you actually have to leave all of this, your soul will be so exalted that you will see your life in the context of eternity, in which it truly belongs. But before you achieve that freedom, you're going to have to cross a river of tears. And when you get to the other side, Linda, you're going to be fine. You'll see." And I thought something that was quite profound that Asha had actually said to Linda when Linda at one point said, "When should I give up?" And I think about this with daily life. You know, when should I leave my job? When should I get divorced? When should I give up? And the answer that Asha gave, I thought was really good. She said, "Linda, you'll know when it's time to give up, when the effort or the pain of your body is so great that you can no longer remember God. That is the time to give up." And Swami's words to Linda were really beautiful. He said, this was at the service that was given for her life. He said, at the service, Jim, Linda's husband, shared Swami's words to Linda during a visit that took place only a few weeks before she died, and the excerpts are as follows. Swami was asked to describe the astral world to Linda, and this was his response. It depends upon a person's spirituality, Swami said. And because Linda is very spiritual, she will go into the light. It will be a very beautiful experience. Linda, you will have angels and people helping you there. You will meet people you love on that side, and you will understand a lot more clearly than you can now, because the brain here is it's a very limited instrument. Also, the body prevents us from feeling the joy that we ought to be feeling. Here we are hemmed in by flesh. Without the flesh, the feelings of joy are vastly improved and intensified. Beauty and love, joy and light define the astral world. Otherwise, it's like this world. What you see here, you see there, only it's much more beautiful. This world is a copy of that world. It's not as if it's a coincidence. This world is made from the astral world. The things that we do here, we've also done there. And when we have a desire to create beautiful things, to have beautiful experiences in this world, it is because we remember them from our life in the astral world. We want to recreate them here, to recapture the memory of our time there. The more we can rid ourselves of the wish to be in this world, the more we can say, I don't need this world, the freer we are. The astral world can fulfill all of our desires for beautiful music, beautiful sights, beautiful feelings, and beautiful colors. In fact, this world is a prison compared to the astral world. If we can shed the need for this world, we can feel fantastic there. We get to mix with saints and people who are highly advanced spiritually. When you go, Linda, keep your mind on Master, and he will come and take you there. But when you get to the astral world, don't fall asleep there spiritually. Don't say, I have everything I need here in the astral world. I don't need more than this. There is always more. Always think of God. That is the key to everything. Linda, these are realities that have been experienced by many people. It's not a myth. It's valid and true, and you will find your sense of beauty gratified 1,000 times more than here. And Linda said, it's such a joy for me, Swami replied. Yes, Linda, you've brought a lot of beauty to people, and that will bring beauty to you. And Linda said, beauty and love are what life is all about. And Swami ended by saying, you've been a blessing, Linda. You and Jim and your family, a blessing for all of us. And I wanted to come and say goodbye. It's been wonderful to see you. Master blesses you. Thank you, and God bless you. We'll have a brief meditation now. Life is a dream, time like a stream carries our burdens away. Never, never despair, joys everywhere. Love can befriend you today. Free from all care, like birds on the air, soar above griefs and worries, seek joy and be gay.
Often on earth things of great worth, worldly ambitions defy. Sometimes a friend helps us ascend up from life's cares to the sky. Love is a star, though shining afar. It can guide us and help us toward light to draw nigh. Life is a dream, time like a stream carries our burdens away. Never despair, joys everywhere. Love can befriend you today. Free from all care, like birds on the air, soar above griefs and worries, seek joy and be gay. Often on earth things of great worth, worldly ambitions defy. Sometimes a friend helps us ascend up from life's cares to the sky. Love is a star, though shining afar. It can guide us and help us toward light to draw nigh. Love is a star, though shining afar. It can guide us and help us toward light to draw nigh.
So the next person I want to talk about, her name is Paula, and she was a very dear friend of mine. I had the opportunity to work with her the last year of her life. She was an older disciple for me, and someone that I learned a lot from. Very dear soul, very sweet soul, and she always reminded me of a flower, actually of a daisy. And Paula had been diagnosed with cancer, and she had there had been several misunderstandings, I guess, about her diagnosis. Tests that had come back positive or come back negative, which were actually positive, and it was a very confusing. And at that time, she had been given a couple of years to live, and they told her that she had to have chemotherapy and that she would live if she took the chemo. It would extend her life. But Paula felt very strongly that the chemo would be very harsh on her, and that they didn't give her a promising life. And so I guess she felt that if she was going to live her life, it was going to be, she was going to control the quality of it. So she opted not to do chemo. And I worked with her that last year of her life, and every day she'd come in and she'd be her perky little self, and we'd comment about how great she looked, which she did indeed. She looked very good. And she would come in, and she was married, and the customers absolutely adored her. I remember when she finally did pass, customers they just grieved right along with all of us. And the interesting thing about Paula, I think, is that, she was living a monastic life. She and her husband, they had some debt, and also financially they didn't have a lot of money. And so I worked with Paula daily and went through this with her, and she was not able to go through exotic treatments or even get a massage when she wanted. She really did not have the finances to do that, even though she certainly deserved it, and she could never go and get a sauna or anything like that. So she every day would come to work just as cheerful as ever, and probably suffering on some level physically, but she never complained about it. And I didn't know until, actually, what really didn't hit her until the last month, right before she passed. She had really had a very positive, healthy last year there. And that last month, she became quite ill. She'd wanted me to come over to her house. She was bedridden. This was before she went into the hospital. And I actually had gotten quite ill. So I had a fever of like 103, and I certainly didn't want to contaminate her. And sadly enough, I couldn't go and be with her. But she went into the hospital, and they refer to it as Paula's farewell party, the time that she was in the hospital. She was incredibly inspiring to a lot of people, including the nurses, the staff. The doctor, one of the doctors brought her flowers one day. She had a lot of flowers in her room, and Ananda people would come by the droves to see her, and people would sit out in the hall pretty much all the time. There'd be people sitting in the hall, there'd be people in her room. And she had this amazing sense of humor. But she also was doing everything she could to bring closure to her life, to the point where she would get on the phone and she would call people And she would, anyone that she felt she had ever offended or that she had any kind of disagreement with, she would call them, and she would basically either apologize or just call them to say goodbye. And she even spoke with an astrologer who had misdiagnosed her illness, or I don't know if he misdiagnosed her illness or just the timing of it. And she just said, I think you were looking at the chart upside down. She had a great, delightful sense of humor. When we worked together, the Ananda was going through a lot at that time. And I'd come into work and Paula'd be at work, and we'd take a break and we'd be lamenting about things, and I'd grab a piece of pie and we'd sit down with 2 forks and go for it. But she was just a delight to be around. And some people described their time with her actually when Paula, let me read first what Jyotish said. He said, it wasn't as if Paula became different during those last days. It was that she became more and more herself. She had a bit of that quality you sometimes see in an older lady, and Paula was not an older lady. She was probably in her 30s, who doesn't have many inhibitions left. She'd grab somebody's face and bring them very close to her, and then looking into their eyes, she'd give them all the love of her heart. She had an almost supernatural sense at the end, a heightened sense of hearing, taste, and smell. She delighted in sniffing all the flowers around her. The sense of touch was heightened. And for example, David and Asha brought her a mango from Costa Rica, and at one point she enjoyed playing with the seed of the mango, squeezing it like a bar of soap. Normally one's soul is covered and obscured by the ego, but in Paula's case, that insulation had come off, and we were given a glimpse into her soul. It seemed that she was already halfway to the astral plane, but paused long enough to take that uplifting energy and channel it to everyone that she could think of. And when she had a message for someone, she would share it. Nearly always the message was love. Don't let anything get in the way. Just love. And Paula actually at one point had felt the man in the room next to her, and he would moan, and she said, go. She sent a couple of people that were in the room. She said, please go over there and be with him. He seems like he really needs someone. And they did. A couple of the fellows went over and sat with him, and they said that he was alone and was afraid, and Paula had picked up on that. And they said at one point in time there was a very subtle shift, and she started murmuring, Swami, 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 repeatedly with closed eyes and an ecstatic look on her face. And after that, she became much more inward and less focused on the world. And when she actually started to leave the body, and I'm not quite sure how it went. I guess the doctors maybe brought her back. I don't know, but in the middle of it, she really looked like she was about ready to leave, and she just started yelling, chant, chant. And the devotees in the room started to chant. And for her to say Swami, 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 just shows the connection that she had with Swami Kriyananda. And Swami's response was, death is like a final exam. It's a summing up of our lives. In fact, you can tell much about how a person has lived from the way that he dies. And there have been very few experiences in my life that can be compared with the inspiration of Paula's passing. It was beautiful. It was filled with joy. It was filled with humor. It was filled with happiness. She went in a spirit of great freedom with no desires. Now, Paula had had a pre-death experience, and I'm going to read this to you. This is Paula's account. It's in her own words. And less than a year before she passed, she was teaching a class. And she described a profound experience, one that awakened her to the importance of being mentally prepared for her own death. No one could have known that she would soon have, during the time of her own passing, the opportunity to put into practice her own inward preparation. I want to share with you one of the great learning experiences of my life. While on a business trip in San Francisco several years ago, I had a really bad cough. One evening in my hotel room, I was drinking cough syrup while talking on the phone. Unfortunately, I really wasn't watching how much syrup I was drinking, and I had a reaction to it. I put the phone down and passed out. And when I woke up several hours later, I could barely see, and I couldn't even think. The only thought in my mind was, get to the bathroom. I crawled on the floor to the bathroom, and with my arms wrapped around the toilet seat, staring into the toilet bowl, I thought, I'm going to die. This is it, I said to Divine Mother. I didn't think it would end like this. I've been a good devotee, but here I am, all alone, just me and the toilet bowl. Nobody will ever find me in this hotel. Well, I sat up, holding my Kriya beads, and I knew I was leaving my body. Mentally, I sent love to everybody and to God, and then there was the light. I was going home into the light. I was moving toward it. This was really it. And then, all of a sudden, I had the thought, oh, but I have those cute clothes on layaway. And boom, just like that, the light disappeared. So I said to myself, what a fool you are, Paula. What in the world are you doing? Here you are dying, and yet you're obsessing over something so insignificant. What happened to your ability to control your mind? It was a perfect lesson. We practice our meditation techniques in part so that in that final and crucial moment of our lives, we will have control over our thoughts. But what did I do? In the heat of the moment, I forgot all about my spiritual training, and right then I realized that I have an important work to do on myself. This is Swami Kriyananda speaking from the memorial service for Paula. We see in Paula's passing what the lesson of death is really all about. Freedom. Freedom in God. Freedom from desires for anything else but God. Let us take that example into our lives, and every night when you go to sleep, give everything back to God. It helps even to build a fire mentally and cast into that fire every attachment, every desire, every self-definition. Say, I belong to you, God. In that spirit, she died, setting a wonderful example for all of us. As Master said, death is not a funeral, it's the funeral of all sorrows. We need to live in divine joy because that joy never changes. Dearest Paula, what a blessing your life has been for us all. Your sweet temper and unfailing cheerfulness have been a constant inspiration, and your selflessness in thinking of others more than of yourself has been a perfect lesson in the attitudes of a true devotee. I meditated after hearing that you'd left us. I felt your sweet consciousness, your humility, goodness, and angelic nature. and I feel also your strength, both great and inspiring. It is great because it comes from a divine attunement and not from egoic will. It is inspiring because it channels Divine Mother to others. I know she blesses you, and I know Master blesses you. So also do we all, your brothers and your sisters in God. So we'll have about, maybe 10 minutes now of meditation. Well, not even that long, sorry. There was so much information, but we will have a few moments of meditation.
Nothing of man endures wonder or scorn. Birth, life, and death are one. Veils of thy love, thy will alone. All that I've done is thine. All that I've done.
Keep calling him, keep calling him, keep calling him. Whether he replies or not, keep calling him. In the temple of unceasing prayer, believe that he's approaching there, and call to him, keep calling him. Thou dost know I'm praying, Lord, you know I love no other. I'll speak not, nor ask when to expect from you an answer. You know my heart. I'll call to thee. silence with the waters of my tears. The altar of my soul will be empty till thou comest. I'll wait for thee. No matter days or years, keep calling him, keep calling him. Whether he replies or not, keep calling him. In the center of my heart I have a mystic throne for thee. The candles of my joys are dimly burning now in hope, awaiting thy coming. Though it be eternity, keep calling him, keep calling him. Whether he replies or not, keep calling him. Even when there's no reply, never let your longing die, and call to him, keep calling him. Remain persistent, undepressed through dark and seeming silence. If in the midst of life, disease, and death you play the dancer, yet keep calling him, you will receive his answer. Keep calling him, keep calling him, keep calling him.
I want to end with just something that Swami wrote, and it's called What I Like About Old Age. What I like about old age is that it gives a person time to experience the consequences of how he has lived. If he has lived a mediocre or a bad life, of course those consequences will not be pleasant. But if he has lived to help others and to serve God, he finds old age a particularly happy time of life. I've seen many young people fixed in their ideas. In old age, they will be what Master called psychological antiques. But I see in my own life that I was more dogmatic as a young man than I am today. and I am open to all novelties. I weigh them freely in the balance and decide whether they are true. In technology, I must add, I am somewhat befuddled, but such things don't really interest me, for they don't touch me on what is true. They are merely factual. Old people become boxed in by their ideas. I find myself increasingly free inside. The joy of youth is an expression of youthful energy, but my joy is a calm, increasing inner bliss. The understanding of youth is restless. Mine has become calm. The desires of youth are turbulent. For myself, I have always wanted only one thing, and I have wanted everyone to find happiness. At first, that desire was a passion, but now it has become simply a calm wish to share my bliss with all. And although I still work, I don't feel a need to reach out to anyone. If my body suffers, I don't suffer at all, because I know I am not the body. If others disagree with me, I feel no need to convince them otherwise. I give everyone the freedom simply to be himself. I used to be troubled by sexual desire, but now those desires have simply evaporated. They are meaningless to me. There used to be a little cynicism in my humor, but now it is completely kindly, and I wish everyone well, even when I find the things that I and others do amusing. And though I still work, I feel no need to work. I am always happy, always grateful. Has it been worthwhile? Well, I have experienced many difficulties in this life, but to me it has seemed easy, simply because I have found it all to be so very worthwhile. And let's end with a prayer. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, dearest friend, beloved God, great masters, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswar, friend and guide, Swami Kriyananda, and Paramahansa Yogananda Ji, thank you for this opportunity to dive deep into your teachings. Help us always to be mindful that the goal is always God. No matter the trials, no matter the setbacks, may we always think of Thee. We are Thine, be Thou ours. Om Peace. Amen. Thank you all, and I hope that this was helpful to you. And God bless you. Have a wonderful evening.